I don't know if this is working, because it does say media source not supported on mine. Like, it's not showing any video for me, so if it's showing video for you, then it's probably just my computer. Okay. Then I have to make a notice. That line was juicy, but it's just not gonna work. The means are worth the end, I guess. hate capital G's. I don't know, they're ugly. Ugly and hard to make look not ugly. Did they give you any requisites for how you have to slap on the sticker? Or did it just need to make it on the box? On the outside of the box? Yeah. It seems weird without anything signifying that it's more than a cube. feel like it's gonna be a quiet stream this time, which isn't a bad thing for me because I don't want this stream to go on forever. I don't really have too much planned for it. So it's no skin off my nose. Okay, just put the stream notice up. On Patreon, I did say I would be streaming probably several times a week, so I do want to still do a stream even if it's short. How much I decide to do on the stream will solely depend on how well it goes. It would be cool if I could get some kind of link to my Patreon post that does not give the title away. Because if I post my stream notices publicly on my blog, then it's like, by the name of the link. What?
I'm just like agreeing.
Okay. By the name of the link, it's very obvious that I'm streaming. Like, the point of posting on Patreon instead of my blog at all is so that it's not a public stream. But, fuck. Yeah, and I don't really feel like it would be a Patreon reward if I did it for everybody, you know? Well, let's just start fucking working on this before people are actually watching me. This is gonna be a tough comic in general, I think, just because there are a lot of setting changes happening. And when there are setting changes, you need a fucking establishing shot, or people get really disoriented a lot of the time. There's more to it than that, obviously, but, like, just establishing the character didn't teleport instead of being able to assume your readers just can put that together is very difficult to fit into a comic format that is supposed to be, you know, short and quick. Hey. This first set of panels is probably just gonna be feet. And when I'm doing these comics, because I give myself usually a 3-row kind of rule, a soft rule, I think how can I cram as many fucking panels into one row as I can? One 800 pixel wide row. I really like how I struggle with these basic straight lines. Sometimes when I'm drawing lines like this for the actual setup of the comic, I'm thinking how I want to do it still. I usually don't set up all the panels at once, but the first 2 rows, I think I know how I want to do them. I think I want to know how all 3 rows go, actually, but it might end up being 4 rows. Because the... I don't... This is going to be a little challenging, even though it's just... Because it's got to be running, so and it's not exactly easy to draw running. This will need to be all the way at the bottom, just to give. This might be too large for such a tiny panel, actually. I'm thinking of how I want to position the feet to signify running and then sprinting in the next panel. So it needs to not look too much like it could be running or sprinting in the first panel. She walks kind of weird because she's got animal feet, but she's plantigrade. So now I'm just kind of sketching her to figure out the entire pose at this point. If I could do one foot that's kind of heel touching the ground, and then the other one's kind of lifting off already, then that would probably be a good indicator of motion. I wish I could do the fucking motion blur. I know Zachary does it a lot, but sometimes if I'm having too much trouble with one set of panels, I'll just draw something else, like some of the other panels first. The the panel layout itself is definitely not forgiving at all. It might be easier to do it from a front view than a side view, actually. So this'll look weird. Foreshortening can make so many things look weird. legs tend to look weird in foreshortened angles. Just, they look like really messed up, proportioned people feet. It's good that people draw during these streams, though. Pant leg should definitely be lifted up because it's catching more air than the foot is, and it kind of gives it motion. Definitely one thing that can help with motion is thinking about what catches the most air and emphasizing the movement. Truthfully, I'm just going to push the perspective in the second panel and kind of try to exaggerate the motion a little more if I can to kind of make it obvious. Might need to fix this foot though, because I don't like it. Still. Might be because the toes are pointing too far down for just a heel touch moment. Claws and drawing the claws or nails when you're still in like the forming phase of the hand or the foot or whatever the fuck. The phalanges is a really good way to give you a sense of how the rest of it is supposed to go. Because without the nails, fingers can look very similar in different angles. Don't want to push the perspective for this foot too much. Not in this panel. Foot might also be a little too short in this panel. Or not this panel, just right. Yeah. Sometimes the nail just isn't visible at all. But I try to make it visible when I can excuse it. I don't want it to be the same exact foot position, so I'm gonna try a little. If I can, try to do something like the foot about to press off. I know the difference because I've, a while ago when I still wanted to do animation as a dream job, I looked into like walking and running sequences because that's always the first step, no pun intended. And the main difference between running and sprinting is that for sprinting there is a short period of time where both of the legs are off of the ground completely. That's significantly different from running in terms of the motion itself. Don't know if I want to do that many motion lines, but just... This is actually push perspective, so it needs to be... I'm glad that meme is catching on. Make it more obvious that this is a pant leg. But I'm not sure I really like that at all. It should be probably not so high off the ground yet. Foreshortening angle's gonna need to be... I might just restart this panel, 'cause I think I fucked up. Probably when you're doing foreshortening, you should draw a circle for the object that is closest to the screen and farthest, and then start drawing the parts of the body that are the longest, because that gives you a sense of it works sort of like if you're doing perspective on a building and you draw the horizon line or whatever. I don't really like fucking doing that, but for bodies it helps. My tablet pen doesn't want to respond. Feeling very cheeky. So let's try doing that. We're just gonna... I know for one method of trying to figure out how to do perspective, you basically draw a little tornado and kind of work from there. I don't really like it, especially out of principle. And this, like, I don't want it to look in the same position. Yeah, that's better. A little. Really, one of my least favorite things is trying to put into perspective a body part that tapers in the opposite direction. So, like, her ankles get smaller from her thigh, obviously. So having to make her ankle the larger part of her leg is not something I'm a fan of. I might not do the same pose I was thinking of, though, because it's just annoying. I feel like the foot is at the wrong angle now. It's not obvious in the sketch, but the setting is going to change in the background to also indicate a sort of time lapse that helps with the motion in general, imply what I want it to. Why doesn't Viscera wear shoes? Mostly like, I don't want to imagine shoes on this kind of foot, honestly. That is why I left shoes off. I need some hot, good character design tips, because I don't know anything about that shit. Let's get some character design theory in the chat. I don't think I've ever drawn serious motion lines before in this, like, in any of my comics. I've done it before in, like, standalone pictures, but it is a slippery slope. I used to have a character who did wear toe shoes with that kind of foot. Let's see what we're doing here, because this still looks a little funky. Look, it's actually nuts. Yeah, it's... That looks better. Although not as forced with the perspective. But those two things are usually not mutually exclusive. Like, perspective can look a little too forced. Oh, that's true. The car has had a lot of speed lines. And this is going to be stationary legs. Wait a minute. Yeah, that is the hand that she's not holding anything with. I feel like, this should be moved over a little bit. I also feel like this leg should be up a little higher. You wouldn't think it, but the mitten concept can apply to feet just as much as it applies to hands. Like, even if there isn't a toe, a thumb toe, it's still very good to work with that, because most of the shape of people's feet is a lot of the motion is in the big toe, and then the rest of the toes kind of just make an arc together. The pants look too big here. Actually, no, I think it's the hand that's too big here. I might be a little meandering with the pace because my Adderall's starting to wear off, and the come down is pretty something. So she can't be having her other hand on her knee. Just have to try to make it look bent from a front angle, which is not it's easier said than done. This hand's too far over. I don't like this song. It's just not the right angle. Go back, it looked better before. See, it doesn't look like it's interacting with the shape of the knee enough, which is my biggest beef. Let's try drawing a rectangle that kind of goes with the angle. And work from there. Let's see if that turns out better. I think the problem with making it look like it's kind of wrapping around the thigh here is that it's not pointed up enough. Anyway, there's two ways this panel setup can go, and I think we're gonna see how the panels look. One way, That is not a lot of room at all. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna go that way. These kinds of panels where there's like right there, they are very useful for pacing, but they're a pain in the ass to try to work with because they're very small. First panel might need more room than the second panel. Actually, I can just make this fucking taller. There's no reason I can't. I feel like the eye is not quite in perspective with what I want to go for. Erase the circle a bit. The circle only serves to bring me down in fucking perspectives where they're not looking mostly at an eye level. If they're looking down or up, then it's just not useful. Usually drawing some of the other body parts in perspective first helps more than the circle in this case. She really looks like a dog here, though. It's messing me up. I'm sure it's partially because of the fucking fact that she has her tongue lolling out. Actually, I don't think that the hair does that at all. I think the ears are out farther. Yeah. It does not wrap around her ears. She's old. She's not supposed to be sprinting around. Yeah, look at that. The only 2 sweat drops I've drawn right in the middle of the fucking head hair. Beautiful. Please don't make this fucking face turn out to look like Ahagao, because I will just die. Literally, I will delete my entire fucking account. Everywhere. I banished the circle, and now I gotta try to figure out where her cheek fur is supposed to be without it. I think the problem is I haven't drawn the rest of her fucking face yet. Or that age line for now. I'm probably gonna have to redo her snout too. This is a hard angle because she's supposed to be kind of just starting to look up from a looking down position. But her eyes are already completely looking up. It's just her head that's still moving up. Let's make those eyes a little more asymmetrical. There we go, yeah. It's fucking up completely. I won't do the lines on stream, depending on how laborious this one sequence turns out to be. I will afterwards, maybe or maybe not, work on a couple designs that for characters that are in one of the New Year's comics, so that I can kind of start solidifying that. I know I don't really have to redesign Devon, but they do have a different hairstyle. And then there's a fox and a skunk that I gotta do. Yeah, put that cheek fur way up there. Apparently that is helping. Can't forget those backpack straps. You can absolutely tell how fast I go when I'm focused versus how fast I go when I am just forcing it. But that is honestly 90% of art, is just being able to have the patience to force it until it comes a little more naturally. I am still learning how to draw age because people don't really teach you, you don't learn in art how to portray anyone who isn't either baby-faced and 20 or under, or anyone who isn't ancient and about to turn to like dust at any point. You basically learn how to draw a young, relatable protagonist and then a mentor, and that is all you know how to draw. I gotta... What way was she facing most of the time? To the right, so she's gonna be looking to the left here, because... No. Basically, in this page, I want her to be arriving at a kind of big grocery store, basically like a Walmart, or like, I might actually just make it an Allmart again. And she sees that she has her backpack on. You know, you usually get harassed for having a backpack on if you go into a store. So, I don't know if any of you have ever tried to walk into a door that says employees only, but you absolutely can unless it's locked, and usually they are not locked. And people don't, there's either usually no one in there, or people do not notice that you aren't an employee at all. So that is something she's probably picked up after a while. So she's going to go to the back and just open the employees only door and enter and probably put her backpack back there because it is like 2 in the morning at the time. And then she's going to walk to the bathroom from the back. Yeah, that's what I've been doing for Viscera. It's just, and it's definitely helping. I just feel like I have a lot more to get a firmer grasp on. It definitely also depends on where you put the lines, and that hair is up way too high. I can just tell already. There are some lines that don't really do a whole lot in terms of making the character look older. I do know that putting the eyes higher up on the face tends to make them look older, but that is not something I did with Viscera's design, unfortunately. I can either have her looking at the backpack or I can have her looking where she's gonna go. I feel like people, if I don't have her looking at least at the backpack, then it'll not click with a lot of people that you can't wear a backpack in a store because you're very likely to be harassed by staff. It also depends on where you put the lines for age. Like if you put a line on someone's neck to indicate age, they're gonna look 80 like immediately, which is what I had to do for the one of the characters in the anthology that I'm working on. As I noticed putting a line on the neck immediately aged her like 60 years. Forehead wrinkles also for some reason make them look very old very fast. I want to make her ears a little not the same, not at the same level here. I always have to kind of try to make sure not to make her hair look too full and voluptuous. Because for one, she would immediately look like Sugar a lot more, but it's also not supposed to be very healthy young hair. feel like the backpack could be a little more prominent. Probably shouldn't be checking my asks during an art stream. They just pile up if I don't check them compulsively. Now the panel edges here gotta be thinner because they're not really even at the moment with the other one, the other side. And that's something that's bothered me more and more over time as I've done more pages, not having the space on each side of the panel be even, and like complementary borders being about the same width. So this is supposed to be the back of her head, and then this is gonna be the building. Let me just pull up that dropout page with the Allmart. I'm in love-hate with the brand name Allmart, just because I'm sure it's taken and it's very obvious what it's alluding to. But it's also believable to me as a brand copying a store that basically tries to sell everything in one place. I'm definitely going to have to look up a reference of how these signs are attached to the building. I feel like there would be some visible structure right here. Yeah, that's got a dash in the middle of it. That's something I'm going to do in post. I'm not going to stream when I line these, like any of these pages, because it is an extremely painful process. Backpack's got to be in perspective. If I say backpack, want this enormous blob of dark color that is going to be extremely easy to just fill space with. Originally, I was going to give her a backpack that also had a strap on the stomach, or like the hip area that you buckle in front of you, but I did not want to add the panels to the already very lengthy page showing her buckling it, so maybe it does have buckles and they're just kind of dangling right now. I feel like this is a close enough shot where the zippers kind of actually have to be visible. Because I don't always draw them. Don't feel they're necessary every time. These ones can be on the side so they're not symmetrical. I never really zip up a backpack the same way twice. Why don't they just let the birds make the nest up there? It's not hurting anybody. This is the motion scanner that doors usually have at Walmart. Maybe put a little moon right here, just to signify this is the sky. I have to resist the urge to make a moon full every time, because it's very easy to just ignore phases of the moon and the fact that it's more common for it to not be full than for it to be full. So that is a detail I try to keep in mind. I'm just not sure that a wall or a ceiling would be visible from this angle, like in terms of lines. There's usually open space this way and that way for carts and vending machines, and a walkway towards the other doors. This is the song. see how that one goes. I just feel lazy if I feel like it looks lazy if I don't explain why I didn't add any detail into the inside of the glass doors. How do I want to do this? I'm gonna look up a reference real quick. If I can find one. There we go. It's definitely not in the perspective I want, but nope, there is no frame. There's only Zool. Trying to freehand perspective, I'm probably embarrassing myself greatly. But I also don't really feel like spending the time working it out. Really, what I should be doing is what I said to do before with the circles, kind of get everything lined up. As you can see, it's a very repetitive process, the entire notion of art. And I wouldn't recommend it to anyone under any circumstances. It's probably too big there then. Make the tiniest head on Earth. Might need to do this with a 1 pixel. I know I should be more open to using the 1 pixel tool sometimes instead of just the same width for everything, because it can add texture and variety to the art, but I'm not a good artist. I'm going to... Where is the vanishing point here? Because I do want to put some fences kind of right here if I can. The fences in the New Year's comic were such a pain to draw. Just the individual chain links and stuff. This door does need to be visible enough that employees only is visible in this panel instead of the next one. Because I don't want to do 3 panels in this row if I don't got to. If I can just get most of the word employee into like this panel, I think it'll be obvious enough. And that just doesn't look like it's going to be enough space. It's so tiny. I don't really like zooming in, so I'm just trying to do it from this perspective. I like working on the, like, at the resolution that it is going to be viewed at. Because that seems most intuitive. Especially for digital art. Printing art kind of, or printed art and working with it kind of irritates me on that level, that I have to watch so many details just be consumed by the amount of shrinkage that goes on. I would just like to make this, the line of the building agree a little bit more with the perspective of the fence. Now we get to do more fucking perspective. This is gonna be the back room, which has a lot of shit in it. I might need to do another row for this page. Let's figure out how the room's gonna look. Basically what I need to figure out is where I want the ceiling and the floor, because that'll denote how far away everything is. I don't really want her to be too small in this panel, but I do want it to be obvious enough that it's a back room. Door should probably be taller because she is not the tallest person. This box thing that I keep putting here is supposed to be like, fuck, I don't know what to call it. It's essentially a huge shelf made out of metal where you put a bunch of boxes. But it probably wouldn't be right up against the wall. Let's just get rid of that ceiling line. Trying to figure out what kind of structure I want to give this shelf thing. I think only the top will have kind of a roof support thing. I think I'll put some boxes on here too, just to make it obvious, you know. And I might move this up actually. Get this looking proper. Yeah. It's just looking way off. I don't know what I'm doing. The perspective is being fussy. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong yet. I always kind of wondered why structures like this had the diagonal bars, just because I know from physics that the triangle is the, I think the, no, okay, no, I think I'm remembering it wrong. Triangle is either the weakest or the strongest kind of shape that you can do structurally. I want to say it's the weakest, but I think it might be the strongest. That rectangles that you don't cut into triangles are actually very weak. We had to build this in this tower made out of, like, you know, wood sticks. You got graded on how high it was, and then essentially you put it on like a thing that shook it, and you got to see how long it lasted. And kind of those two things put together made your grade. Were you in a regular physics class or an advanced physics class? I'm not going to sketch out those bricks right now because I love myself. Personally, I think watching someone kind of figure out the structure of things on stream would be the most interesting for me, but I feel like it's boring to watch for other people, because I like boring shit. Because for me, structural things are one of the hardest things to draw. They're so very specific. And there's a lot of bits and pieces that were never really made to be art, you know? These aren't on the same level. I'm still not a fan of the perspective here. Please draw all my backgrounds for me, because I hate them. I'm glad I practiced for a year. That was one of the things that I really tried to get better at in 2015, was drawing backgrounds. That's a problem you can, like, that is a pit you can fall into as an artist, and it just digs itself deeper the longer you go without doing it. Because there are so many things that you cannot improve if you don't have backgrounds. Like making, like color theory, I don't think you can learn that much without making a character interact with a background in a setting. You can learn to shade a character in the void like a god, and you'll plop them into a setting and they will look very strange because you don't know how to make the colors work together. Oh yeah, this is not supposed to have a, yeah. Let me just put a box here. I understand why a lot of people use SketchUp. That tiny angry raccoon face. Yeah, that's the challenging part. You have to learn how to stylize backgrounds so that they fit with the characters and they're fast, because you've simplified them. I think a good place to start learning how to stylize a background would be just taking random objects and starting to stylize them. It gives you a feel for learning how to pick out the most important visual traits of any given object and making, like, basically your own in your head model for what it should look like and your style. And there's no right or wrong when it comes to what the most important traits are. That's what ends up making it your style instead of just anybody's style, is you get to pick out what you think is the most important that defines the object's identity, you know? I feel like the door should open the other way. It's because I don't really want to have to work with the pose of her using the arm that's already holding something. Yeah. She might need to be down a little bit lower. I'm gonna leave her there for now and maybe move her. Hello. I don't want to make Viscera too thin. I feel like she's a little thinner than I'd like her to be in her reference. For someone who is 50. This is gonna take me a while to get used to how she walks, though. It's like having to learn body language all over again. This is an entirely new body to work with. She's so small. I'm gonna throw on one more row. I've seen the next scene. I still got to decide which way I want it to go. Either way, I saw someone buy a single grape once, and the grape weighed like so little that it ended up not costing anything. Like, I guess because it was also rounding down wherever they were. But most of the videos I've seen of people buying a single grape, it ends up being about 2 to 4 cents. And if you can't buy a single grape for free, then it's got to be the other option. Boy, I would love to fit 4 panels in this row. My hubris. It's not happening. See how thin they'd have to be? I did it once in Over Before You Know It because it was panels of a cigarette, which is like very thin. But I can't do that when an entire thing needs to be happening. Uh, when the cardboard isn't open, it's kind of harder. I haven't really figured out how to make it look like cardboard in the sketch yet, which is unfortunate. don't like that cheek fluff. It doesn't have enough life to it. Um, Backgrounds are always really satisfying once you get them done, though. If you put the time into making them. So, if you're gonna do art, I recommend learning how to do backgrounds. Let's just erase that snooter for now. It's not helping me. I feel like what she has in this bag, she probably wouldn't even want to set down. So she'd probably have it on her shoulder before setting it down, just out of instinct. Hair should be down lower if she's going to be looking up. Basically, you want to, I guess what I'm ending up doing is making her hair a speech balloon of someone yelling every time. Want to add a little shoulder detail because there's tension in the shoulder when you reach up. And I have to erase my beautiful background. That's one thing that sucks about drawing everything entirely without really considering what's going to be covered up, is you have to erase a lot of stuff that you like. Get this right back there. feel like our snout's a little too out there. Her head, the top. The way Viscera's face works usually ends up cutting a lot off the top of the original base circle, which really throws me off, but fuck. You know. I'm sure I'll get the hang of her one day. Her head is turned too much. Ooh, that's a lot of lines. It's juicy. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do the character designing after this, just because I ended up doing an extra row of panels, and I still have to work on Dropout. So I'll do the lining for this off screen, and probably the designing too, at some point. I do know that people like designing, so I might just stream to... I will definitely stream tomorrow either way, because I do have shit to do. And I don't want to be, like, putting 3 days in between each step of this process. So, yeah. I definitely do not expect people to come to every single one of these, but they will be archived now that I have a YouTube account that I can just upload all the saved videos to. So if people ever want to waste their time watching the process without a strict deadline, that's also possible. And it was what people voted for, so I do not want to kind of skimp on that. If I do too much off stream, I feel like people think that I'm not working on it at all, so I have to learn to not be embarrassed of the process, basically. I'm gonna put some tension lines to make it obvious this hand is pushing on the backpack. I feel like she should still be sweating a little bit. If for no other reason, just because I like to draw it and shade it. She's old, so it's kind of a workout for her specifically. It would be a workout for me too. She's probably more fit than me. And the hair is up a little too high here, I think. One thing that's challenging about Viscera is I can usually excuse high head hair for like it has a lot of volume or whatever, but she's not supposed to, so I can't really be as vague with the shape on her hair. And this one doesn't have her. It's just gonna have the implied action that happened. I guess I can have her tail. Or not. I feel like I like the tone of the panel a little better if she's not in it at all. I'm not sure I want those lines there at all. Oh. I'm going too far back. This one I just got to erase by hand. Maybe I do want the lines back there, maybe... I just feel like I don't want to make the background too empty, especially for something that's supposed to be kind of like a warehouse, a stock room. All the peanut butter's out front. They already know she goes back there and just eats the peanut butter. It's in like a locked safe or something. I think that's about it. So this has been my tutorial on how to fuck perspective in multiple ways with multiple subjects. I hope you all can use this knowledge to fuck perspective yourself. Oh, God. Yeah. This was a lot of perspective. And I think I'm gonna call it quits for tonight. And I'll probably color this tomorrow. So, thank you for watching. And I hope you had fun.